We're rolling.
Okay.
Look
Sam?
to you, John.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go again. Sam, welcome back to the show, and congratulations on your new picture, The Evil Dead Part 2, Dead by Dawn.
Thank you, John Gallagher. It's very good to be here. I remember that your show gave me the first publicity. It was the very first interview we did for the original movie Evil Dead, and I've never forgotten the valued publicity that it generated for us. I appreciate it.
Our
Thank
pleasure. In putting together the sequel, the long-awaited sequel to Evil Dead, what were some of your considerations, in comparison to the earlier picture?
Well, we wanted to make something that would be true to the original, because although Evil Dead was not a hit, really, it had some few people that were very feverishly interested in it, a few crazies out there. So we said, well, if we're making a sequel, let's try more than anything to keep it of the same flavor. Fun, a lot of scares, quite a few makeup effects, some animation effects that the audience seemed to enjoy. But in the construction of the sequel, let's try and cut back on those effects or those sequences that were too repulsive to the audience, so much so that they might offend people. So what we tried to do was remove those elements out of the first one that might be offensive, but try and keep it still a fun, exciting horror ride.
That's really one of the kind of the hallmarks of both Evil Dead 1 and Evil Dead 2, is that they're fun, but at times genuinely scary.
Great. I'm glad you think so. Thanks. We tried to build as much suspense as we could, and originally we weren't actually going for the X rating, because gore is like in horror movies, I think the modern crowd likes the gore. I think, I don't mean to be saying for sure, and I think some of the fear comes from that. I think that when you can show someone being ripped apart by a monster, the audience knows that in scenes to come, oh, I guess I should be afraid of these monsters because they can do some real nasty damage, things I don't even really want to see. And we decided, well, we're not going to show that this time, the gore. So, in fact, I think we lost a little of the horror because we didn't show it. But I think we gained maybe a wider audience. I hope so, at least.
Well, it's interesting in that regard, in that, for example, the scene where Bruce Campbell is being pursued throughout the cabin by this force. It's, of course, subjective. You're not seeing the force actually, destroying, bodies and blood, but it's just a relentless, no place to hide kind of situation, so you feel that fear.
Great, I'm glad that comes across like that.
Something interesting also in, I guess, the first reel of Evil Dead 2, the way you kind of recap Evil Dead 1, I guess for the benefit of those who didn't have the pleasure of seeing the first one.
Most people. Very few people have seen that first one. You, my ex-roommate, have seen it, but not that many other people have.
Interesting, again, the way you kind of recap it, eliminating some of the secondary characters, focusing instead on the Bruce Campbell character and his girlfriend. How is that? That must be a very satisfying feeling to, in a sense, be able to redo some of the first film with it, within the context of the sequel opening.
Yeah, we did have to retell that story to get the audience up to steam for the second one. Our thinking was, most people have not seen the first Evil Dead, and yet it is a direct continuation of the Evil Dead story. So let's, as quickly as possible, encapsulate the most important elements of the story, which are very few, really, because it's such a simple story, but basically a group of kids come to the cabin, and they find the ancient Book of the Dead brought there by a professor who had stayed there before, and unwittingly resurrect ancient demons that are called to life, that inhabit the woods, and one by one these demons possess the students, and there's no way to stop them except through the act of, your and my favorite, bodily dismemberment. And so we just wanted to tell those story points, and then to show that our main character Ash was still around, and then we could really begin the second part of our tale.